What's going on, world? DS1 Ross, I'm back. Shout out to everybody. Welcome back to Sheep Stay Sleep TV. Late night stream for y'all. You know, tonight got a nice panel lined up for y'all family and gonna chop it up about spankings, discipline or abuse. Are spankings good or bad for your children's growth and development? Now, this is a stream, you know, the family wanted to do for a while, and we thought it would be something powerful for y'all. So y'all tune in tonight. Shout out to everybody that's coming through. Y'all make sure y'all hit the like button. Make sure y'all share the stream, cause this gonna be a good one, y'all. It's a late stream on Sheep Stay Sleep TV, I know, but it's the weekend, and you know, just came to bring some quality. You know, there's a lot of other stuff going around, but here's where the quality is. So shout out to everybody. Shout out to everybody on the panel. My family's on the panel. Shout out to y'all. You know, and tonight we gonna get it in, man. So we definitely gonna be taking some input from the chat, but we gonna get it in, man. We gonna talk about spanking. You know, do you spank your children? You know, were you spanked? We just gonna get into it tonight. You know, and it's gonna be a good one, family. So, like I said, y'all come through the building. Make sure y'all hit that like button and share the stream. Share the stream. Because I feel like this is a conversation that's needed. You know my motto here on Sheep Stay Sleep TV, heal before we build. You know, and sometimes some of us, we were abused, and a lot of us haven't gotten over it. So tonight we gonna get into it, and I feel like we gonna go a little deep for y'all tonight, family. So y'all stay tuned. Got some good info for y'all, man. So shout out to everybody on the panel. Once again, shout out to everybody in the chat. So so I'ma just start off and I'ma just start off with the question.
Hold up. Before you start,
Okay,
I'll make a suggestion.
no doubt.
First let me ask you, are you about to ask the question and open it up for us to begin with? But I want to know if number one, if I could speak last, and number two, JT, do you have children? I don't know if JT, and if so, like how many boys, girls?
I'm a godfather.
Okay,
Yeah.
Godfather. Oh,
Yeah,
that's okay.
but I was a father for 4.5 months. So
Okay, perfect. Now, if we can get a female in a chat room that don't have children, that'll be great. If we can get a female on that don't have children, that'd be great. And I would like to ask if JT could go first on this. You know, just based on the fact because he don't have kids. I want to know what his perspective is, if that's okay with y'all.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. Um,
That's cool with me.
yeah, it doesn't matter if you want to go first, JT. Far as answering certain questions and stuff like that.
hey, let's
So
go.
Yeah, and if we can get that female, like another female, because Akasha has children, but if we can get a female who don't have children that's willing to come on, y'all, one of y'all ladies, please come on, and she can go next too, because I would like to know like how she would feel, if she had children. What's her idea on?
definitely. So Well, I'm gonna definitely keep my eye out on the chat, and I'll put it out there from time to time. If there's any ladies out there that don't have any children that want to come on and speak, I'll send them the link. So I'll put it out there from time to time. Definitely. So we can start with you, JT. My first initial question was going to be when you were growing up as a child, were you spanked?
Oh yeah, I got spanked both of my parents, my grandmother, my grandfather, aunt, uncle, whoever's in the community too. Because what I was how I was raised, if none of the parents or your family or legal guardian was there, then your neighbor makes sure that you be straight. So I got a few spankings, yeah. It ain't hurt me. It's the way I look at it. So I took whatever I learned. When I became a godfather when I was very young, so it was, like a learning experience. But at times, I had to be stern because the parents at the time wasn't around. So, when the times I need to talk, I need to talk. When it's time that I have to handle my business, spanking, I have to do that. So to me, it's had to be a balance. But I feel like these days, too many kids had too much say so or too much power. I remember in New York, maybe you maybe remember details to the one. It was a child back in 1990 that it went straight to Supreme Court, and they said it was okay, but it was like this 8-year old kid, snotty. I said snotty kid, saying that he wanted to divorce. He wanted to divorce his parents because his parents spanked him. And after that, that to me, that's when everything has changed. But like I said before, for me, like the Bible says, spider rod and all like that. I got beaten, but you know, it was to me just for my benefit. It wasn't like, oh, he was like bing, bing, bing. It ain't hurt me. That's all I'm saying. So you just had to be balanced about it. That's all I'm saying. When I'm saying, there's some people like, oh, when you hit the child, oh, you hitting the child, but sometimes when you talk to the child, it doesn't get it. Sometimes there's a pattern, and you gotta know when. That's when our parents used to tell me, know when, and some people just want to jump on and say that, oh, you shouldn't do this, do that. Hey, those are my God kids. You know what I'm saying? I help raise them, tell me what not to do. I look out for their benefit. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to keep them out of the street, so they could be productive, so they could be productive in this society. You know, so that's my take on it.
No doubt, no
Okay.
doubt. Go ahead, sis.
I don't mind answering the question, the same question. Was I spanked as a child? Yeah, I was more than spanked. I was severely abused. Um,
Kasha, your mic kind of low, sweetie.
okay, how about now? Is that better?
Much better.
Okay. Yeah, as a child, I kind of grew up, I guess you could say, like JT did, to where, you had neighbors who knew your parents and they had a certain authority over you. So if you down the street, you cutting up, they could cut a switch or get a belt or hit you with the hand or whatever. And yeah, I got spankings, whoopings, beatings, all of the above. From my mother, she didn't really spank us. My father did most of the spanking, And my grandmother, she was a switch type woman. So I myself grew up with, as I like to call it, domestic discipline for children or corporal punishment. And the way I experienced it, I do look at it as abuse. So that's my answer to that question.
Same question for you, Shug. Were you spanked growing up?
Peace and happiness to all the living organisms. I grew up with both my parents, and yes, I was spanked growing up. I was whooped, all that what we call it, popped, mainly by my mom. I remember my dad, he probably hit me about one time, but mainly by my mother. Nobody else ever spanked me or put their hands on me, except for school teachers. I did get swatted in school. I went to school where they were swatting us. You know, we used to like when we fucked up in school, you'll have to put both your hands on the wall and kind of toot your fucking ass out. And they'll take like a cutting board that we use in the kitchen. That's what they use for paddles. Some teachers would drill holes in them.
Yep.
Yeah, some teachers would drill holes in them so the wind, they'll tell you all these stories about why they make it. They'll paint them, draw their names on them. The teachers had all these fancy panels. You had the couple teachers had 4, 5 panels, paddles hanging up on the motherfucking wall. Don't go in Mr. Jones. You backed up Mr. Jones from. So yeah, I came up in that era, man. So my mom and a couple teachers, no neighbors and nothing like that. Even though I did come from that, it takes a village to raise a child era in a tight neighborhood. I grew up, in a house, in a nice neighborhood. It was in the inner city, but it wasn't, like that bad of a neighborhood, like the projects and stuff. So yeah, I was, man, and not knowing, of course, I didn't know what abuse was. I never even knew what that word was. So no, I ain't think it was abuse.
Well,
I want to add to that because I had the same experiences as Suge did as far as school. I went to Christian Catholic schools, that kind of sort of thing. So yeah, the paddlings, I got those. I got them a lot because I used to talk a lot in class and talk back or question the teacher or whatever. So the paddlings with the writings on it. We got hit on the hand with the ruler when we didn't swish.
Yep.
Um, you got sent to the principal's office. You put your hand on the wall or you bent over a chair, and there will be another teacher to, I guess, supervise, make sure it doesn't get out of hand or you don't try to fight back. And then you get a pink slip sent home, letting your parents know you got a spanking, and then when you get home, you get a whooping. So yeah, I had that experience as well.
well, for me, I definitely got spankings when I was young. And similar to Shug's situation, it was really my mom who was big on the discipline. My dad, all he had to do was pretty much talk to me. Me and him had a real good rapport. It was kind of different with my mom. My mom, she was much more strict, much more meaner. You know, um, so I definitely got spankings. I got a spanking one time by my dad. And I feel like I get that. That's where I get my the way I raised my boys from, because my dad only spanked me when I did something that was like really detrimental. And the one, the one whooping I really remember is when I set the garbage can on fire. He lit my ass up. And now I'm a grown man, I say I deserved it. But, I never knew, or looked at it as abuse either. And that was my next question.
Oh,
Um,
I want to
when
add.
did
Hold up for the next question. Uh, about the fire.
mhm.
I had the same similar incident. I actually set the house on fire 3 times. And I paid for that. And I disagree. I don't think I deserved it, and I don't think you deserved it either. I just wanted to say that. No, we'll get to that.
I
Oh,
got a
okay.
fire story too. I got a fire story too. Um, Probably when I was like probably 8 or 9 or what have you. Um, I got a lot of aunties. I had 2 uncles, maybe oh gosh, 6 or 7 aunties, and they all whipped each other's children. And my grandmother had a big hand in raising us, and she had a lot of land, a garden. She owned the woods behind her house, and we was the kind of children you play outside. You go outside to play. You find something to do. You make up stuff and all that. So we played house a lot, you know. And the male cousins will say, y'all gotta go and cook the food and fix the food, and we gonna go out and we gonna hunt and whatever we do, and we come home, y'all have the food ready. So grandma had a lot of pine trees and a lot of pine, and we started the fire to cook the food, and we ended up burning down half our grandmother's woods. So she called all her children over, and they lined us up in the backyard and took turns, and each one of them whooped us. So yeah, that's my fire story.
That's horrible.
Yeah,
Shame.
yeah. Just how I just imagined that shit. That was now that to me, you know, I agree with L Boogie. She just said it in the chat. It's a difference between a spanking and a beating. I definitely think it's a difference. We may use the words, interchangeably, but I definitely think it's a difference. Like when I set the garbage can on fire, my dad gave me one of them old fashioned spankings. He put me across his leg and just gave me like 10 swipes with the belt. And honestly, the reason why I say I deserved it is because I did some shit I wasn't supposed to be doing. It wasn't an accident. I really took the dishcloth, turned on the eyes, lit the shit got so hot and the flame got so high, it was about to burn my hand. So I threw the shit in the garbage can. And the garbage can lit on fire. And the garbage can was under a window because we had a window in our kitchen. And the flame ended up lighting the damn curtain on fire. So the shit could have, it could have got crazy. So that's why I say I deserved it because why was I even messing with the stove? It wasn't like I was 3, 4, 5 years old. I knew what I was doing. It's just that I did some stupid shit. And when I was about to burn myself, what anybody else would do, throw it. So I threw it and it went in the garbage can and it set everything else on fire. So, that's why I say I deserve it, because I pretty much knew what I was doing. It wasn't no accident.
Yeah, I got a story myself. It was one time. This is before I moved to the term. We live right next to the Phoenix House. Anybody know the Phoenix House? The Phoenix House is that's when when the city find out that you on drugs, instead of go to jail, you be in this apartment building, and each person has an apartment building. But the Phoenix House always give back to the community. And my mother and father used to have these old 45 records. And we used to take it. Our window, our back, like where our rooms was at, it was actually we looking at the backyard of the Phoenix House. And we used to take these records. We used to throw them as frisbees. The throw them. Whew, whew, whew. And we was doing it for like 2 days. And come to find out, I was in school. My mother whooped my ass. My father whooped my ass. I was like, dang. And he told me, he said, I know who did. And you better not. Oh man, that's one of the worst ass shit I ever fucked. I said, damn, I can't even sit on my ass for like 3 or 4 days. I couldn't even play damn basketball. I look at the record. No, no, don't throw no more records. Oh my goodness. But what happened though, that was wrong. And I understood that. That was their property, not ours. And you know, when that's what people fail to really understand, that when you give discipline out, when you destroy other people's property, you know, you have to be reprimanded for that. You have to know that is not your place. And so that's when I really have a greater appreciation of other people's property. And that's my.
Yeah, quick question before you go, D. How old was you? Because I was like around 10 when it happened, and under when them incidents happened with me. Just wanted to know. That was just a curious question. How old was you, DS1?
I was about 8 or 9.
Do you think parents should be accountable for the actions of their children?
It depends. It depends. It depends on the situation. Like I said,
It don't legally.
well, legally, yeah, you're right. But are we speaking in legal terms, or are we speaking personally?
I was asking your personal opinion just to see what you say. I just wanted to throw that out there, though.
Yeah, yeah, nah, I I don't think, I look at it like this. I look at it like this because as a child, from young, like I said, my dad, he was never really the disciplinarian. It was really my mom's who whooped my ass a lot, you know. And we gonna get into that because that's where I started to feel abused to a certain extent. But my dad, we pretty much had a good rapport. All my dad had to do was talk to me. So my dad never, like I said, that was only like the main spanking I ever got in my life from my dad because it was like me and him had such a good rapport. It was like it was no room for me to do dumb shit. You know, my dad taught me how to think, to not do dumb shit. So that's why I didn't. When I got a spanking that day, my feelings was more hurt than me feeling hurt from getting spanked because I knew I did something wrong. You know, I knew and I felt like I let my dad down by doing some dumb shit. Cause like I said, it wasn't an accident. I purposely knew what I was doing. It wasn't an accident. And I could have caused something worse. You know what I'm saying? I could have fucked around and set myself on fire. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely, man. But you notice how you keep saying this too, that your mom was the disciplinary. It wasn't your father. But what you're really saying is your mom was the one who whooped your ass because your dad was a disciplinary. He just didn't choose to discipline you with physical force. And that's what I'm getting on. He took a different approach to discipline you. Everyone always approached spanking as discipline, like that's the only form of discipline. You have a whole lot of other ways to discipline a child rather than spanking. So your dad was a disciplinary. He just chose to discipline you with talk. And you notice how you felt when he finally spanked you. And you notice how you kept saying all he had to do was talk. All he had to do was talk. Notice that's proof that the other forms of discipline will work. just as maybe more effective than the spankings. Spankings don't automatically work. So I disagree when you say he wasn't a disciplinary because that he just chose a different method of discipline.
Interesting. I'd like to address the question you posed, Shug. Do you believe the parents are responsible for the actions of the child? Growing up in a religious type setting, um, we were taught, and the parents went by the Bible um, teachings, which was something like the parent will pay for the sins of the child up until like age 13, and um, depending on which religion you're in, they have it a little bit different. I think in some religions, like you get your bar mitzvah at a certain age, and that makes you, a man, or uh, what is it, the quinceañera for the female or whatever. But I'm 42, so back when I was growing up, the parents were very much responsible for the actions of the child. And I think that was something that was taught, and it was something that was very much believed by the parents, and legally as well. I think it has changed a lot as far as legally, because they've taken a lot of the, I don't want to say responsibility, because the liability, should I say, because they do still hold the parent liable in a lot of cases, but they try to remove the authority from the parent, so it's not looked upon as much as the parent being responsible for the actions of the child, because legally they tend to hold the child more responsible at an earlier age for the things that they do.
Good point. Good point. So, y'all got anything else y'all want to add, or would y'all want me to move to the next question?
My fault. Let's keep it kicking, boss.
All right, cool, cool, cool. So I'm gonna say at at what age did y'all start feeling like, or did y'all ever feel like it was just a spanking, or was it abuse?
I'll go first. When I
Okay.
noticed my a couple of my I was like 14 maybe, and I noticed a couple of my friends who was cousins, they didn't get spanks. They didn't get whoopings or spankings or nothing like that. And they never got into trouble either, believe it or not. It was some nice schoolboys. And yeah, that's what made me start to think, well, why is this? And then like it was going on in the house, and then you seeing it on TV and movies and all that. You kind of thinking that's what the fuck, you know. That's how it is. That's how it's supposed to be. So when I noticed other families, every family didn't spank their children, that's when I started to question it. So I was about 13 or 14, maybe.
For me, I started to question it when, because it's all I've ever known is physical punishment, but not only that, there were other strategies used. My father was, military, so he had a lot of tactics also that we used to have to do that was definitely taxing. And my mother, again, she didn't really spank us. For some reason, she couldn't handle that. All we had to do was scream and holler, "Oh, it hurt, it hurt!" And she stopped. She'd be about to cry. So she'd do stuff like put us on timeout while she go to sleep, put us in a corner, and stuff like that. But for me, I started to realize or feel like we were being singled out um, in our family as far as the way we were being disciplined when a lot of the neighborhood children would pick on us for knowing that we got what was called whooping. Um, they picked on us a lot, and also when my mother would, you know, express herself as far as, I don't like you beating my children and that sort of thing. That's when we started to, well, myself, and of course, you as siblings, you talk when you can. That's when we started to be like, dang, maybe we shouldn't be getting hit all the time like this because no matter what you did, you got a whooping. You talked in church, you knew you was gonna get it when you got home. You get a C on your report card, that's a whooping. Just any and everything. It's a whooping, and it's not just a whooping. It's a pull your pants down or hold your wrist out, or it's beat, 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 bruises and lumps and that sort of a thing. So when you grow up thinking that that's normal because that's all you've ever known, and you start to notice that other children aren't really getting the same thing. And for me, I want to say it was about 8 or 9 because my mother actually took us and ran, left my father because, he was beating us, beating her. So that's when I started to really know, thanks to her, that, maybe we shouldn't be getting hit on like this.
What about you, JT?
I said for me, when I became preteen, it was like the punishment part. It was not really the spanking part. It was like the punish part. It's like, especially like my pops. My pops, like, if there's certain things, it's not done a certain way, that even though I know I've done it, oh, you cannot play this game, or you can't do certain stuff. That used to be, that to me, that was like unjustly, and I didn't like that. And sick, when I got 15, me and him came to the head. I got tired. You abused me mentally, emotionally. I did everything what you told me to do, and you still was show with that. And my mom's had to get between us, no doubt. And so I said it's the punishment. I said that it was like he was a sergeant, I was a cadet. Now I can't talk for my other brothers and sisters. I can't talk for them. Only I can say for me, that was, to me, was unjustly. I get that's helped me shape me when I became a godfather, to be fair, but to be stern. To me, at times it was inconsistent. It's like, all right, and then some people have seen it like that too. So that's what's up with me when I was growing up. Punishment.
Hey, one thing about what Akashi, what you said was the indicator too, was being talked about. But that's something like people didn't know. My neighborhood never knew I was getting spanked, but I did see other kids being clowned for it. And that was another thing that was like, whoa, that was a clear indicator, So yeah, that was a good point.
Well, I'm gonna say for me, I felt I felt the abuse part when you know how when you get in a spanking or whooping or whatever we want to call it. I felt the abuse. I felt like I was being abused when, you know, it went from my mom using a belt to using her hands. Cause as everybody could see, I'm a big dude. So at 13, 14, I was a big guy, and it was like the more and more I grew, it was like my mom's got intimidated. So she would like try to use like brute force, like really try to hurt me. And that was the shit that really hurt me the most. And the shit she used to say to me while she was hitting me. That's really what played a part too. The verbal stuff. Because it was like, you're not trying to teach me a lesson. You're trying to intimidate me. Like you're trying to punk me. That's how I felt. So that's when I really start feeling like I was being abused because, you know, I was thinking that, and I still think like that to this day. If you get a little spanking, it's supposed to be a lesson behind it. It's not supposed to be, I'm spanking you because I want to spank you because you did something wrong. You know, my mom's didn't, it wasn't no lesson behind it. It was more of, I'm a fuck you up type of shit. That's the energy I got from her. And that's what I felt like it was abuse.
I can relate to that as well. Um, we didn't get much talking at all. It was just you knew the rules and you understood it, and if you violated, then that's your ass, and you was beat down. And you were to stand there and take it. No squirming, no putting your hand behind your butt, no, there was no, you couldn't flinch or not even cry, or you get it worse. So I definitely felt that fear factor, if you would, and that intimidation, if you would, and it leaves you feeling like you just beating on me. I understand I'm not perfect and I've violated one of your rules, but why is your first resort to just beat the dog crap out of me? And I got to stand there and now that I know about slavery and things like that as an adult, I can say honestly that that's what it felt like you was being beat by massa. Just being beat and whipped, and they literally called it whipping and beating. So, like with my grandmother, we had to go pick our own switches. She had switch trees. I don't know if y'all country like me, but sometimes she would braid them together. And she had rose bushes, and sometimes she'd tell you go get some of those switches with the thorns on them. And if you didn't get a hard enough switch or a big enough switch or anything like that, you had to go back outside and pick another switch. And like I could say with my dad, he had a work belt and a Sunday go to meeting belt, and whichever one you got whooped with, which was usually the work belt, that was the thicker, tougher belt. And you just got whooped because you already knew what you was getting whooped for, and that was pretty much any time you violated, and you just got whooped, and then you had to sit in your room in pain and you know feel
Horrible.
the pain of being beat down. So I can relate to that fear tactic, intimidation type stuff, and yeah.
Boy, I hate to say it, y'all. We got some cruel, and mean parents, y'all. But that's okay. Uncle Suge here to save the day. We're gonna change the mindsets of all this bullshit. We're gonna stop the spanking, y'all. I'm here to stop the spanking, man. Let's move on with the question.
So next question is, the ones, well, even though you don't have any biological children, JT, do you, as far as your godchildren, and I'm gonna say this to everybody else on the panel, have y'all ever spanked y'all children?
Well, yeah. When the time it is, yeah, I have to. I remember it was on one time. It was my oldest godson. This was I was living in Brooklyn, and he was like just like 2 weeks. I'll never forget March. Like the first 3 weeks, he was just bad. And so the parents they went away on vacation. So I was watching them, and I was working at the time. Matter of fact, I think I was working a temp agency. Yeah, I was working temp agency at the top. I just said, yeah, he smacked a teacher. And this is the first time I ever put my hand on my godson. And I think I put a hand on my God a lifetime. I said about 4 times. And I think he was like, maybe like not 10. And I went and teacher, they said, please. I took all the parents, let them know, paged them. But at the time, it was pagers. So I paged them, let them know. They said, okay, no problem. We trust you. And the grand and the grand and the grand parents, they wasn't around. And I came to school. I said, I know you didn't smack this teacher. And he looked at me a certain way. I said, grab your book. I took I took his coat and I dragged him. I'm talking about I actually dragged him outside. And I said, I know you ain't swole up on me. So I took him back to his aunt's house. And let's say that he still remembered. And my other god kids, I said about I didn't really have to beat him all that much. But when all I'm saying that when the time that I have to do it, I did it, and it was appropriate. You know, just about that's about it. You know, they mostly was like good kids, but it's like when I've noticed that when the parent or the adult was not around, that's when they show off, and that's how kids do. And that's when I had to step in and make my presence felt. You know, about it. Somebody else can go next.
Okay, this is a great question. Yeah, I did. I have a gap with my children. I have a 26-year-old, I have a 23-year-old, and a 22-year-old, and then I have a 10-year-old on my second marriage. And by the time I got around to my 10-year-old, I learned a lot, and I did things very differently. I do not and have not spanked the youngest one. Um, with the oldest ones, yep, I did. I spanked them and called myself not being as harsh as I was treated, but I come to realize uh, through them that I indeed was too harsh because that's what I knew. That's what I understood, and that's what I was taught. Is that's how you discipline your children. Now I implemented talks and things like that, but I would say beat them with a belt, and it was difficult for me, but at the same time, it was way worse for them, and it only made them tend to not like me. And as they got older, they definitely expressed how it made them feel. And I'm glad that I was able to have these conversations with them because I wasn't able to have these conversations with my parents as far as how they, deal with me. And I learned a lot from that experience. Unfortunately, it took the three oldest ones um, for me to learn it. But there is a big difference in the relationship I have with my youngest child as opposed to the relationship I have with my oldest child because you can be taught, you know, by inheritance and experience and mentally and emotionally that you're doing the right thing. This is what you got to do to get them in line. If they get in trouble in school or they talking back or they just no matter what you say, they won't clean their room and they just you said don't go out of down past the stop sign. I can't see you. I don't know where you at. You ain't called. You ain't came home. Beat them. That's what I knew. Beat them. And I learned that that is not the way to go. And that's just my experience, but it was definitely the worst thing I did as a parent.
Hell no. Hell no. Never. Not my 23-year-old, not to my 11-year-old. No, I don't spank my children, never have and never will. I actually teach my kids, if I ever hit you, you better hit me back. Because that's exactly what we would do as an adult. That's something everybody don't ever ever admit. We always say the kid did something wrong. How many times we fuck up and we do something wrong? What if somebody hit us? Females, how many of y'all cheated? Guys, how many of y'all cheated? Hmm? What if a woman cheat? He deserve her ass beat?
Yeah.
Come on now. No, I ain't never spanked my children. Never have, never will.
Well, I have, and like me and Black Beauty was talking about in the chat. Um, just like I was saying earlier, like my dad, to me that was always my last resort. But now it's not a result at all. I don't even resort to it because like we were saying, it will hurt them. It will hurt me more than it will hurt them. So, you know, when I spank them, we both will be goddamn crying because I don't like to see my children hurt. And it hurted me because it's like, damn, I did this to you, you know? So that's why I really feel like it doesn't work for me because to me, like most parents that did it, you have to be kind of like cold hearted. You gotta be like kind of emotionalist not to feel that you're hurting your child. And you may think that it's working for them, but it's really not, and that's what made me stop because I'm like, damn, if this is hurting me just as much or maybe more than it's hurting them, then I shouldn't be doing this shit. So it was a conscious decision for me, where it was like it stopped for me because I just got too old and I left. You know what I'm saying? I moved away from my mom. At a certain age, I left my mom where my mom actually put me out and she sent me to my dad. So that's pretty much why I stopped with me. But, I've spanked my children before and, I definitely think it doesn't work. And I know sometimes, you know, shit may get a little hectic because I got a 12-year-old too. And sometimes, you know, he could be a little flippant at the mouth. So, I've jacked him up a couple times, like, yo, watch your mouth when you talking to your mother. You know what I'm saying? Even she have jacked him up a couple times, but all in all, I just feel like that really doesn't get the message to really sink in. There's other ways, and we'll get into that, but I've definitely spanked them before, and I definitely stopped. And that's something that I won't do anymore, period.
That's wonderful. And one other thing I wanted to say just to add was go ahead, Kasha.
Oh no, go ahead. I'll wait.
I was just gonna say what that was the reason I didn't, you guys, was because of the spankings from my mom. And I remember how it made me feel, and man, for a lot of the time, well, my oldest son, man, I don't even think he would have ever done nothing to deserve a spanking. But my daughter, I couldn't even. conceive the thought to hit my daughter. You know, when I'm raising these two, then when Neo was born, watching them grow, it was like I couldn't even conceive that thought because I knew how it made me feel. So like I understood that that's all we knew, but I figured that I can try some other things and it's working for me. You know, I think my children doing real good.
I wanted to just touch on the point where D said, it didn't work because that's where I became frustrated at. It didn't work. You beat them and they go back and do the same thing again. Or this was my experience. And it's like, well, this is what worked for me. Why isn't it working for them? You know, it would just create a bad relationship. It would create a lot of tension. It would create a lot of resentment. And they would go back because they were looking for something more, something deeper. And it never worked. And after time, me realizing that this ain't working, I had to start trying to figure out and finding answers to something else. And that's what led me to different tactics, as they got older. And I'm realizing, because you think, okay, beat them longer this time, beat them harder, or don't hesitate to beat them. Don't threaten them and say you're going to get a whoop and go in your room. Actually go in there and just let them know that it's going to happen. And it wasn't working. It was the opposite effect that I was getting. And that's when I, was starting to come into the realization of I got to read some books. I got to take some classes. I got to do something because this isn't the way. It worked for me, but this is something different. So
I mean, definitely, definitely, definitely. So, next question is, what are some of the tactics that y'all employ as a form of discipline? Because Suge made a good point earlier. I never really looked at my dad giving me these lectures and these talks as a form of discipline. I never really looked at it like that. You know what I'm saying? I never really did because me and my dad just always had that relationship. So I never really looked at it like that. So what is some of the tactics that y'all employ instead, to replace spanking?
Man, I could definitely take that first. I want me to. JT, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. No, you go ahead. You can go ahead, sure.
Uh, I one of my number one things is exercises, push ups, sit ups, all those types of things. Reading, and not only just do I make them read, they have to tell me something, about what they read. Writing lessons, writing numbers, just practice handwriting skills. It's always something, whatever is going on at the moment. I just make them engage in something that makes them, get some either physical activity going or brain activity. And I try, even though I know that's going. Anytime you make a child do something that they don't want to do, they're gonna have a certain feeling about it. But I don't think they ever had that same feeling about it as you physically hitting them. That's why I always choose, other methods. Taking the game, taking away their things. Y'all know what that, that's about. That always work. Taking away their things they like. I just think it's a whole lot of other things we can do. Then we resort to the spanking so quick, man. I've seen females hit their children while they helping them with their homework because they can't get the answer right. I literally seen this shit. Got into an argument and walked out of the female house, man. Like, bitches, you crazy. Excuse my language. But that was just the craziest shit I ever saw. Like, you trying to help the kid learn. He's struggling, nervous, and you yelling, you screaming, you going crazy, you lose, then you just pop the little home. Like, we resort to that popping and physically striking the kids so quick, man. That is crazy. And I think we could just take so many other lessons, man. I wish my son went to sleep. I make him read the dictionary. I'll just say, pick the dictionary up and just open it up and start reading. I don't give a fuck what page it is, just open it up and read. Then tell me a couple of words, 2 words in a definition. I make him read one whole page, turn it over, read that page. Ain't gotta sit there and read for hours. I'll just make them do stuff like that. And then I'll ask them later on about those words. So it's a whole lot of other things we could do, y'all. Make them drink water. Give them a cup of water and say, here, drink this glass of water. They ain't drinking that much of that damn water. Y'all know y'all got that Dairy Miss juice and Fruit Rush and all that stuff over there. Make them drink some water. Eat this apple. Apple a day keeps the doctor away. It's a lot of shit to do. You ain't got to spank.
For me, I did a lot of that what Sugar's talking about. I've read a lot of books, took classes. I've tried to time out. I've tried to, do a report on something extra outside of school because what child wants to be home and have to do schoolwork? No, you can't go skating. No, you can't go here. Um, no, you can't play the game. Uh, you got to cut the grass. You got to do this. You got to do that. Extra chores. Um, for me and my older ones, they always saw it as extra punishment in the same way that they did the spanking. So I realized that wasn't quite working for me. They would just end up being upset. And I tried to start implementing something that I never had, which was more love and affection and more of a personal friendship type relationship. I know a lot of people are opposed to that, but it was always because I say so. You don't get to speak, you don't get a word in, you don't get to explain yourself, you don't get to have an excuse, you don't get to tell your side of the story. It's, oh, the teacher called me and that's your ass, you did it and all that kind of stuff. So what ended up working for me was when I decided to uh, pay them more attention, give them more praise for the things that they did do right, um, talk with them, let them know. I bargain. I bargain with them a lot. Um, I had a rule that I implemented. Tell me if you did something wrong. I want to hear from you first. Your consequences will be a lot less. I promise I won't get upset, and we'll talk about it and we'll work it out. I just want you to tell me. I had my son who is now 22. He's got one and one on the way himself. He got into a lot of trouble, and he was good at hiding them notes and hiding this and hiding that. And I would always hear from the teacher, and they make him out to be the worst child ever. And I'm like, not my baby, it's the sweetest thing. And I just started telling him, I want to hear from you. Tell me before they tell me. And then instead of me just coming up there jumping on you, get mad, and because as us being older, we had to. If your mom got to come up to the school, you been a whooping. You probably gonna get in front of the class, and everybody knew what your consequences was, and you was guilty. You didn't have a side of the story or none of that. So I would start to tell me how you got in this situation. Why did you react like this? Why did you do this? Let them tell me their version of what they experienced and why they felt that way and try to be understanding even though I didn't approve of the behavior, but talk with them and try to find a deeper cause and give them some alternatives. And we started to role play a lot. And even though I felt like, okay, they need punishment for this, but just instead of going directly to the punishment, I would skip it a lot and instead talk with them and let them express what happened throughout the day to get them to that level and what they experience. And when they feel like they're being heard and they're getting love and affection, on top of that, they will start to um, conform a little bit more and listen to what you got to say a little bit more and try some of your options a little bit more and think twice a little bit more. And with the role playing, okay, so this child said something to you in class and made you upset, and so now you amping up and you going off on the teacher. And my son would attack teachers, and he be in handcuffs, they calling me from work and stuff like that. He had a lot of rage, a lot of anger. So when I stopped hitting him and started talking to him and started trying to figure out where this is coming from, what's the problem? Oh, you got a new husband, and oh, you don't love me like this no more. Or, oh, you know, um, they picking on me because of this or because of that, and uh, I want to do this, and you don't let me, or whatever. Then you start to bargain with them and resolve some of those issues, and then they're happier in life, and that's what worked for me. I know a lot of people tend to be opposed to that, but that's what started working for me. Treating them more so like they are a person, an individual, and they have rights and they have a say so in what's going on in their life. Or I don't want to keep my room spotless all the time. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. Um, Maybe I could just do my version of cleaning the room, or maybe I could just go spend the night over so and so house. I know you're overprotective, but stuff like that, and kind of giving into it. And then I saw a lot of changes from that aspect more so than just punishing them for the things that they did wrong.
It's on you, JT.
Well, for me, what I did for some of my gut when they would get in trouble, I tell them I used to get it like newspaper, like the Daily News, New York Times, and I pick out the story, and you gonna do a book report, or I'll go to the library, I pick out a book and of our history, I pick one, you're gonna do a book report, and when you write it, it's gonna be neat. If it ain't gonna be neat, as you tear it up, you're gonna do it right. Or sometimes this now we'll speed it up. When I got a little older, I used to show them how to cook. Oh, I'm gonna no, you're not going outside. No, I'm gonna show you these things. I'm gonna show you a few things so when you become older, you will know how to clean right, how to cook, how to shop. Um, Show them a few things how to serve the community. And I was very stern with that. And so that's what I did. Very suddenly I screamed. They know that it's funny because one of them used to know, oh yeah, I know I'm in trouble. They always had their notebook and their pen. I said, that's right. Where we going to the library? I'm gonna pick somebody. I used to pick one. Matter of fact, I said my goddaughter. I had like she always had she had mouth when she was a teenager. She had mouth. Oh, she had a lot of mouth. Okay, all right. You gonna do a book report as Coretta Scott King? Yeah, but you're gonna do a book report. And when she did a book report on that, she found so much stuff. I said, there's quite a few women that that's very influential, and for our people, and that really I think she used to always want to be bad because she knows she's going to the library because her parents never took her to the library. I was the one who took her to the library. I was the one who you know emphasized education. And beside her aunts and uncles, but basically I was the one. And so the way it is, like education, um, and the things that I learned when I was young. It's all about pass it on. That's it.
Well, some of the things that I do is I definitely make my oldest son read. Even though he loves to read, what I do is I make him read stuff he don't like history. So I go to our little bookshelf and I get a book like like one time I made him read Behold a Pale Horse. He read some of that. Right now he's reading a book called he's reading about Indians, the black Indians. Um I make him read books like that, things that don't really interest him right away, but things that'll benefit him in the long run. And that's what I tell him. Because see, one thing I do is I lecture my children, you know, even when they're being punished, I let them know why this is happening, what caused this to happen. You know, I'm never the one to be like, oh well, you have to do this and just do it. No, I'm letting you know why you're reading this book and actually how it's going to help you in the long run. So I I do that. Me and my wife, we actually just smashed his Xbox 360 in front of him, you know, because he was messing up in school. So me and her both, we took hammers and smashed this game up in front of him. We made him we made him break all his Call of Duty games up. We made him break the disc, and then we piled all the disc in a pile and made him smile next to it in the picture. So it's a lot of little things, you know, that you can do. Now my youngest son, with him is like if he acting up in school and stuff, me and him I have a conversation because he get a progress report from school every day. So I'll just be like, you know, why you was acting up? You know, what happened? Was it an accident? You know, what's going on? I I love to have that discourse with them because I love to hear their explanation. And I always um push for that. I push for an explanation. Like you're not gonna just sit there and be quiet. I want to know why you did what you did. Why did you do it? Why did you say that? Why were you being rude? Was people being rude to you? Was somebody being mean to you? What is going on? Talk to me. So I always encourage that. And I even let, like I said, even when I implement their punishment, I'm letting them know why. So with my younger son, I let him know, well, since you was acting up in school today and you didn't have no reason to be acting up and not listening and being rude, so today you are not allowed to use your iPad and you're not allowed to watch cartoons. That that just that right there just smokes him. You know, he hates that. Taking away his TV time, um, taking away his iPad time and stuff like that. That shit that kills him, you know? And, you know, he'd be like, Dad, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Can I get another chance? And I tell him, I accept your apology, but you can have another chance tomorrow. Tomorrow is another day, and you'll have another chance to redeem yourself. So if you get a good report home tomorrow, you can get your things back. But today, you have to learn your lesson. And I make sure I always say that in particular. You know, I let them know that this is for you to learn from what you're doing. Dad is not just telling you no, you cannot do this because I want to say no. Because I really don't want to say no. I really don't want to punish you. But this is what I have to do so you can understand what you're doing and you can understand what not to do. And this is what's gonna happen as a result of your bad behavior. Because they always get rewarded for their good behavior. We always reward them for that. And I feel like those things worked, because my oldest son, he just got a progress report for his grades going into the next semester. His grades shot all the way up. Cause not only did we smash his Xbox and all of that, we also let him know if you continue to goof off, to be doing stuff in class you're not supposed to be doing, hanging out with the wrong crowd, we're going to take you on a nice trip to the youth detention center because the people you're hanging out with and the things that you're doing, you're going to end up there. So we're going to take you there so you can have a first experience of what you're going to be dealing with because this is where you're going to end up if you keep doing the nonsense that you're doing, And I don't know, but he brought his grades home the other day. I'm like, God damn, I was impressed, you know? I'm like, that shit worked. So those are just some of the things that, I've employed, me and my wife, we employ. And I feel like those things work, man. I really do. Because the other stuff was like, it was like you was just knocking on a wall. When you knock on a wall, you don't get no answer. So, those are just some of the things that we did and it worked. So I definitely, hashtag no more spanking. I'm definitely with that. I'm definitely with that. So you want to add to that? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna add this. Um, that one I forgot to say there's something else that I did. And this was a new approach. I did this like 2 years ago, and it worked like a charm, y'all. I took my he was fucking up in school, excuse me, and I took him and bought him a pair of shoes. You know, I had to go pick him up from school, and he got suspended. And I took him and bought him a pair of shoes, and I just told him, if you if you give me better behavior, you'll get more gifts like this. And it worked like a charm, y'all. It worked like a charm. And I know one last thing, DS1 ain't telling y'all the whole story. See, when he smashed that Xbox 360, he ain't tell y'all he had the Xbox One waiting for him. So he got to be complete with that.
I want to piggyback off what Dee was saying about making him give an explanation because I had to do that with my oldest son as well. Every time I would, try my new methods, if you will, and ask him, well, here's your chance. Tell me why you did this. Tell me what happened. Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. He would say that a lot. Then when he saw I wasn't letting up, I needed an answer, explanation. He would say, voices inside my head. He would just make up all kind of stuff. And when I started to make him actually think and give a reply and actually sort out the situation for himself and tell me, literally, give me a legitimate reason, and I would have to send him to his room sometimes. Go in there and think about it, and when you're ready, and you could talk to me and let me know what happened, why you did this, come back out and talk to me. And I wasn't gonna settle for, I don't know, I don't know. Then that's when he began to really, put more thought into what was really happening, and I saw, more results from that. So Yeah.
Well, I think that can kind of be tricky when you ask it. Why you do that? Because they never know why. Even we don't know why. We even say, man, I don't know why the fuck I did. I don't know why the fuck I stuck my dick in her without no kind. We all do things to say I don't know why I did that. Like on a serious note, asking the kid why they did sometimes in certain situations now. It's kind of crazy. They gonna say I don't know because they don't motherfucking know. And they never know, and they gonna make up crazy shit like voices in my head. They gotta give you something. So it's tricky. When kids do kid shit and we ask them why you do that because hell they don't motherfucking know.
And I agree. I agree. But how I saw it working in my situation is that even though he kept and he did it for a long time, his answer was always I don't know, and he would make up stuff like voices in my head or something told me to do it, or he just was stuck on that. But when I started to make him literally come back and give me some kind of answer, he would start to actually um rationalize it out in his head, and he would start to see for himself that he was just acting and not really thinking, and it made him think more. So that's how it helped in my situation.
Yeah, I would have to agree. Sometimes, and I'm gonna say this. Sometimes children don't know why they did something, and I believe sometimes they do, and they use the "I don't know" thing as a cop out to not say why they did what they did because sometimes they know what they did was wrong. Like when I set the goddamn garbage can on fire, I knew what I did was wrong. Now, if my dad asked me, why did I do it? And when he did ask me, I didn't tell him I didn't know because I knew why. But like I'm saying, sometimes children don't know. So you know what I would do? When my son say, Dad, I don't know why. I would say, okay, well, you know you was being rude, right? How did you feel when you was being rude to your teacher? What if your teacher was rude to you? How would you feel? I would ask that question. If dad was being rude to you, how would that make you feel? Would you ask me, Dad, why are you being rude? I would just pose different questions to 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 get their mind to work, to get the wheels going and be like, oh, because I feel like they can make the connection once you put yourself in it or you reverse the situation and ask if what if it was them,
Facts.
so that's one thing I would, because that's what my youngest son do. He always say, I don't know, Dad, I don't know, even though I'm looking in his eyes and I know that that's a cop out, but I don't say that to him. I'll be like, okay, Amir, you don't know, all right, well, um what if dad was being mean to you? Would you want to know why? Like, for instance, I'm going to give y'all a perfect example. Last night, we came home. We got home late last night. And I said, you know, we went out and, I bought him some new little toys and stuff. We bought him some stuff because he always do good in school. My youngest one, he does great in school. So we took him to Toys R Us, bought him three little new toys and stuff. So we got home late. So I said, Amir, you have two choices. It's late, but I'm going to let you and your brother stay up a little longer. So you have a choice. You can use your device or you can play with your toys. You only have one choice because it's late. You're only going to be up for this amount of time and then you're going to bed. Okay, Dad. So what you going to do? When we got in the house, I said, what you going to pick? I'm going to play with my toys because he wanted me to open up his new toys. I opens up the toys for him. He starts playing with the toys. Next thing you know, he running to go get the iPad. I'm like, Amir, what did dad tell you? He like, oh no, I changed my mind. I said, you cannot change your mind. You can't change your mind because me and you already came to an agreement when you said you were gonna play with your toys, right? He said, yes. I said, so why did you go get the iPad? He said, because that's what I wanted to do. I said, now see, that's where you wrong at. You cannot do what you want to do. So I said, since you think you can do what you want to do, how about now you go to bed now? He was hot. He went to bed. I put him in he was crying. He was crying his eyes out. I went in the room, sat on the bed with him. Why you crying, man? Because I made you go to bed, right? And I explained it to him. You are not allowed to do what you want. You're 8 years old. You are a child. You cannot do what you want. You cannot change your mind. I said, how about this? Why didn't you ask dad, can you use the iPad? Why didn't you say, Dad, I changed my mind. Can I use my iPad? Why did you just go and grab it like you can do what you want to do? When I already gave you that option. See, that's how I talk to them. I don't talk to him like he's a baby. I talk to him where he can actually make the connection on what I'm saying to him. And after us having that conversation, he knew that he was wrong for what he did. And he knew that he was deserving to go to bed earlier now. He stopped crying and he went to bed. And I specifically told him, Dad's not being mean. I'm not being mean to you, but I have to let you know that I'm dad. And dad, being a parent, must enforce rules. There's rules here, and you must follow them. And I gave you a choice. You picked your choice. You cannot renege unless you ask, and you didn't ask. So now you have to go to bed. Do you understand that? He understood. He stopped crying. We hugged. I gave him a kiss on the cheek. He went to sleep. And I loved it. I really loved it.
Hey, I
Yeah.
gotta get to this chat room, man. Hold on, y'all. Hold on. I got to back this shit up. Now, Majestic said, where that damn comment at? Where you at, Majestic? Where that comment at? When she said she don't bribing them or something. She said that's bribing them, bribing the kids to do right. She said she don't do that. It's not bribing the kids, Majestic. It's really just JT, go on mute, bro. Majestic, it's not bribery, okay? It's just teaching the kids that rewards come out of life when you do good things. That's the whole thing about it. I didn't elaborate on it, but it's not about bribing them. It's just showing the children that when you do good, good things happen. You know, when you do bad, bad things happen. You know, I didn't. So don't be trying to push this off as we trying to bribe the children. You know, it's just showing them that rewards come in life when you do the right thing. Period, point blank. And that's all I was trying to say. So I'm not bribing them. Nah. My fault, JT.
I agree.
And I think there's a one point that we got to really talk about is co-parenting. Let me break it down here. I know that I've been through it, and all of us been through it. When the child, when you tell a child no, and you let that child know what you do wrong, you gonna be reprimanded. Then after that, they feel that the parent is not going to tell the other parent what's not going on, and then they ask him, "Could I do this?" Then come to find out, it caused confusion, and I found out throughout the years that when we said that we co-parented, it's not really happened. We I mean that I give you a case in point. One of my best friends that I grew up in Brooklyn. One of his kids, they my goddaughter, and I know what she did wrong. And she said, "Oh yeah, I wanted you to take me to Baskin Robbins." No, what did your parents say? They said, "All right, so I have to go by what they said. You did wrong. You have to be punished for that." So I went back to them and said that she trying to clown me and stuff like that. So they said, "Well, we already gave her 2 weeks and stuff like that. Well, the rest of the month you punished." And I found out that, especially in our community, we always want to take one side instead of check on that parent and to really find out what the child is doing. And then the child cause friction within the structure of parenting, of discipline. And we gotta talk more about that, because now the kids have a lot to say so, and then it's like the kids trying to be a parent, and the parent end up being kids because they want to give them everything they want. They want to play both sides. Oh, you shouldn't do it. No, because when I grew up, I can tell you, I want to tell one little story, and then I will pause it. It was one time, it was my second oldest brother. He figured like, oh yeah, if I can't get it from my parents, I go with my great grandma. That was her favorite. And I said, yo, Paul, that's wrong, man. Having it like that. So father heard about him. Don't say nothing. But you can go outside, Jay. You can go outside, Jay. That's all right. I'll go outside. You want to play ball? So yeah, here's some money. Go play ball with your friends across town. All right. So all that time, I was getting myself ready. All of a sudden, then all of a sudden, somebody got me. So all of a sudden, my great grand, she said, "Oh, you said this." My mother, my father,
So, sure.
in that house, stay in this house. And then my mother had to co-sign with that. Yo, wherever Herschel say it goes. We decided he did something wrong. He need to get punished. He should never come to you with that. Now, instead of my great grandmother saying, "Okay, I understand that," it caused friction. And instead of my brother being punished for 2 weeks, he ended up being punished for the whole summer. And I learned a valid lesson in that wherever your parents tell you to do something, you do it, and they co-sign with it. That's the way it is. Because when you go back, if you go against your parents, things not gonna work out right. I just want to bring up that point.
Go ahead, sure.
I agree.
My bad. Go ahead, sis. You want to touch on that real quick?
No, yeah, I agree with JT, and he made a valid point. The co-parenting and sticking together, even whether you're together or you're separated, you got to put that aside, and you always have to be a united front. Whoever is all in charge of raising the child, and I had to learn that firsthand because uh, my youngest son, who is 13, his dad would call and say, well, he's doing this, he's doing that, and blah blah blah. But or my son actually would call me and say, Mom, you know, Dad's making me do my homework. He's coming down on me. He won't let me play the game. Blah blah blah. And I always baby him and say, oh, well, Dad is being mean. Oh, that's my baby. Oh, why are you being mean to my son? Why are you being so hard on him? Blah, 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 blah. And he would always call me, always call me, always call me. And I started to notice, the strain that it was creating on, Dad, being that, he's the primary one raising the male child because he always knew that he could just call mom and whine about it. And I would just be like, lighten up on my baby, blah, blah, blah. And I started to realize that that's not helping him. That's actually hindering him. So it was a process for me and my son, of course. And he had to understand that, okay, son, if your dad is telling you to put the game down, do your homework, get your homework done. Don't spend your time trying to look for a way out. Don't spend your time trying to call me and have me feel sorry for you. He's telling you to do this for a reason and you need to comply. And that actually helped him understand that your parent is your parent. What they tell you to do is what you need to do. You need to listen to it, and there's no calling the other parent and getting out of it, or there's no when you're with me, and dad say, well, he's on punishment for 2 more weeks. So during the time that he's with you, um, he can't do this, he can't do that, he can't do this. And my son would always be like, yeah, whatever, because I know with mom that punishment stuff is going out the window, and he go back and it's the same problem because he hasn't learned his lesson. So I had to learn to also carry out that same structure and let him know that we both agree that this is for your best benefit and you have to learn this lesson and you have to start to man up a little bit and quit trying to be a baby. So it can be a hindrance when you're going against each other and the child can just run to, another parent or another figure of authority and take, a lighter road or take the cop out, or they know, hey, I'm supposed to be on punishment, but while I'm at grandma's house, she gonna let me ride my bike. She gonna let me do all the things I want to do, and by the time I get back home, it's whatever because I had fun.
You want to touch on something, Shug? Go ahead, bro.
Yeah, yeah. Just explain to Jalen, brother Jalen, if you're still listening. He see everybody always referring to discipline as spanking, like how he commented. Um, what he said, you can't discipline. He said the new law, if you discipline your child, it's child abuse, and that's not true. You can discipline your child. You just can't hit them. You can't strike them. And this is where everybody always quick to try to say that's discipline. It's not discipline. I'm sorry, y'all. That is abuse. You're not supposed to hit a goddamn child. Period. Point blank. Y'all never want to face the reality. If you do something wrong, do you get hit? No. If you run a red light, if you break a law, if you vehicular harm, if you do anything wrong, don't nobody hit you. You gonna hit back. You gonna defend yourself. A child can't defend themselves. Why y'all keep thinking that hitting a motherfucking kid is discipline? I don't understand this, man. This shit gets me hot, man. Let me turn my mic off, man. This is crazy.
I agree. I agree with Sugar on those points because, the hitting thing, where did that come from? Where did that become embedded inside of us?
Thank you.
I
Because I'm
understand.
your ass. That's the
Yeah,
first thing you think. My mama beat my ass. Yeah.
right,
You beating the
right, and
kid.
I understand that they did it because it was probably done to them, and if you keep tracing it back, whoever owned, their ancestors beat the dog doodle out of them, and they understood that to keep their children from disobeying the rules and getting caught up or getting taken away or killed by mass or whatever, You had to hit. It's been embedded in us, but hitting is hurting. And if you're tied up as a slave and you're being hit, what can you do but sit there and take it? Imagine how that feels. So imagine how your child feels knowing that you're my parent. You're supposed to love and guide and teach me and protect me, but you're hitting me because I made a mistake. You're hitting me because I veered off the path which you set forth. But am I not my own person? Do I not have my own mind? Help me think, instead of hurting me. You know, um, it studies being shown that uh, hitting a child as a form of discipline is actually, corporal punishment. It's actually abuse, and it causes, psychological damage and emotional damage to the child as they get older. And a lot of people do say, "Oh, well, I was spanked and I was whooped and I appreciate it because it taught me this, it taught me that." Um,
And they ain't got a pot to piss in and a window to throw it out of. Keep going.
yeah, yeah. At the end of the day, you missed out on a lot because you wasn't taught. You were beat into submission. You were, made to fear. So
Facts.
I definitely agree.
And you touched on having your own mind. I'm glad you said that because there's something else, y'all. I try not to. I don't even like when my son say, "Dad, can I have some juice?" That shit irritates me. What you mean? Can you have some? Go get the juice. Don't ask me for nothing. He know where to get money from. He know where to go in the cafe in this apartment building. Just tell me when you're leaving out this door to go downstairs. You know where to get them. Just tell me, hey, Dad, I got a couple dollars. I'm going downstairs to get this. Don't ask me for shit. Be your own man. Whatever I got is yours. He know what limits to cross. That's the approach I'm taking with my kids. I'm trying to be totally different with my children. I want them to feel completely free to completely be. I just showed my son how to put a condom on today, y'all. I just showed him that in the middle of cooking. I don't know what the fuck made me do it. I said, come here, man, pause that game. And called him in there and I just asked, you know what sex is? You should have seen his look on. We taking a class on it. He in the 6th grade, y'all. And oh my God, I just saw something today. Oh my God, damn, y'all. He told me, about the class, everything, but he didn't really know. So I went on and showed him how to put a condom on. I'm trying to be as open as I can, and I even showed him where they at. So I ain't playing with mine, man. I'm trying to take a whole different approach. I don't want my son to feel like he under control or I'm here to boss him around. I'm here to provide and protect and lead you to becoming the man you want to be. Period. All this controlling your child shit is crazy, man. Look what we at today, and we still thinking that's how we should raise our kids. A lot of this shit is crazy we doing to our children. That's just my opinion. And I'm gonna say it again. Stop referring to spanking as discipline because it's not. First time you say something about you hitting the kid, the first thing they say, oh, so you say you can't discipline the kid? Who the fuck? Why? Always got to be discipline. That is abuse, and the laws have confirmed it. They stopped the teachers from paddling us first, and then they stopped the parents from hitting us. Period.
Well,
And I agree.
okay.
I agree with letting them, teaching them how to think for themselves because if you always going to make the decisions for them, like, for example, like how he said, his son wanted to get some juice and he had to ask him, can he get some juice? So if you raise them like that to where they have to ask your permission to do simple things in life, when they get older or when they walk out the door, how are they going to think without you being there, without being able to ask you the questions? You got to teach them and let them have some freedom and their own independent thought so that they can work out things in reality and let them see the consequences of their own actions. And then that's where you can sit down and talk with them and say, well, you the one who chose to do that. You know, why did you make that decision? Or what do you think you could do differently? I didn't, that wasn't me. That was you. You did that for yourself. So it does hinder them when they have to be uh, dependent upon your every okay and yes and this, that, and the third. They don't get to think for themselves. And when they go out in society, to play with their friends or to go to the store or do this, do that, and the third, they can't think for themselves.
Well, this is JT. I agree everything what you said, but I think the key is that we have to learn to adapt with the times. And at the same time, we have to understand too that every child is different. We just cannot just raise one and then the other one is going to be the same way. It has to be the balance. You have to know their child. You have to know their mannerism. Because I give you a case for use me. I put me as the example. My older brother was like a split image of my late father. So whatever he gonna do, he gonna do what the hell he wants to do. He don't care the ramifications or nothing. But as for me, of certain things, I say, okay, I got it. Choo 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 choo. I get it. That's it. And when he his teenage years, he at first I thought I had a harder. He had it much harder because he thought, like I said, he thought he when he moved with his great grandma, my great grandma when she was living, he thought, oh, he had everything easy, but it wasn't like that. And so we have to understand in a community that every child is different. But at the same time, like all the methods that we talk about it, we have to be direct with our kids. Not hurting them, not abusing, but be direct and firm. And each child is different, and you got to deal with that child certain way. But at the same time, as an adult, you have to let them know rules and regulations. You have to. Because that's why some of our kids is running crazy now, because there's no rules or regulations. And I know for me, as being a godfather, I don't have no kids, but majority of them I raised as my own. That every child said, oh, every child is different. I can't talk to them like I talk to other ones. Everyone is different. But I let them know wherever you do wrong, there's repercussions of it. When you do good, there are also repercussions of it. So we have to learn to adapt with the times, but be firm and balanced. That's my take on it.
And just to touch on, what y'all saying too, as far as I look at it, a lot of parents used, spanking as a form of control. And I think a lot of times what it is that when you really don't know how to guide a child, you use those mechanisms of control so you can feel like you're doing the right thing. And that's totally the wrong thing. A lot of us was raised in out of fear. You know, a lot of our parents, whooped our asses because they was afraid to let certain things happen to us. And I feel like that's wrong. And I don't do that with my children. I try my best not to lead out of fear, because you cannot lead your child by instilling fear in them, because fear makes you stagnant. You won't be able to do anything. You'll basically cripple your child, because every little thing they'll be, like you said, like y'all said, they wouldn't know how to think on their own. So, I definitely will say that I tried different I've tried different methods than I'm gonna say more than my mom. And that's why I feel like, I'm a different type of parent, because I don't lead out of fear. And I tell my oldest son this all the time. Don't look at me and your mom. We're your parents, but this is not a monarchy. We're not your controllers. We are your guides. We're here to guide you. That's what we're here to do. But it's your job to take heed to our guidance, you know? So I definitely feel what y'all saying because, that affects a child in the long run as they get older, as far as teaching and leading out of fear and control, because you're definitely not here to control your children. Your children is gonna be who they're gonna be, whether whether you whether you raise them right or whether you don't. They're gonna be who they're gonna be. And that's what we need to be pushing toward. You're not gonna be who I want you to be, you know, because that definitely affects children in a lot of ways. And a lot of our parents, why I can't speak for y'all, but I'm gonna just say for me, I had this conversation with my dad not too long ago. Um, a lot of parents are dream killers because they grow up controlling you and leading you out of fear. So it's like whatever dream you have, you afraid to express it. You know, growing up, I didn't growing up, my dream job was to be a veterinarian because I love animals. Preferably I wanted to be a herpetologist because I love reptiles. I love snakes and lizards and turtles. That's something that I never put out there, but that's what I wanted to be. But when I graduated high school, my dad was a dream killer. I told him I even signed up to go away to a school that had herpetology and I wanted to study that. You know what he told me? You ain't going to school for no goddamn herpetology. The goddamn market ain't flooded with herpetologists. You better go to school for something that you could go and have a career in. Shot my dreams out the air. And later on, that shit affected me because at the end of the day, that's what life is about. To chase your dreams, to become who you want to become. And that's what I always tell my sons. You're not gonna become what I want you to become. You're gonna become what you want to become. And I'm gonna support you and I'm gonna love you regardless. So that's a big thing, man. That's a very big thing because a lot of our parents was dream killers. A lot of us had dreams to be things, and by our parents not encouraging us, not not supporting us, it made those dreams melt away. That's why you see in inner cities a lot of young boys that wanted to be athletes end up selling drugs. Not just because of the neighborhood and because of the environment, it's because their parents was dream killers. So they saw no hope in going to the NBA no more. They saw no hope in going to the NFL no more. So they said, you know what? I'm gonna just stand right here and make money. And it fell into, you know.
I want to piggyback off the idea of giving them, room to think for themselves and tell a story about like with my youngest. Um, when he come over and be like, well, you don't have meat, you don't have milk, cow's milk, you don't have this, you don't have that. I want this, I want that, and I tell him, that's not what I partake in. That's not what I provide in my household. You have your own money, you have your own mind. I'll take you to the store, you can get what you want, but at the same time, I simply educated him on why I made the decisions that I made, and what effects it has on your body and stuff like that. And I told him, I said, at least watch these things, listen to these things, and then after that, you make your decision. I'm still gonna love you the same. And I trusted his, intellect and his decision making, and he After viewing a lot of the stuff, he completely changed, and it was his idea. It wasn't forced. When we was growing up, it was, oh, you gonna eat this, and you gonna finish your plate, and you don't get to decide, you don't get to choose. But letting them understand why and making the decisions for themselves helps them to become thinkers and be able to have control over what they do with themselves in the future. So
Yeah, I'm with that, man. Like even like my, his video games. Don't ask me to play. You know how much these games cost nowadays? You asking to play, he got the online subscription for the whole year. That's $59.99. And you asking, can you play the game? Man, you better play that motherfucking game. I'll tell him what time to cut it off. That's about it. His grades is nice. He do his homework. That's all that matters. He got one C, A's, and B's. And get him up. Let's get him better. Let's get him better. We're working to get him better. But that's good enough, man, to be putting all them restrictions on, asking for this and that, this and that. No, how do you, man? He got his books. Take time out to read. And you make your choices. So I'm definitely with that.
Right, right. And I agree with that. I agree with that to a certain extent. But on the other hand, I would have to agree with JT in saying that, all children are not the same. Because you have some children, if you leave them to themselves, they'll fucking run themselves into a wall, you know? So I do believe it's definitely a balance, and I think sometimes, like I grew up, I knew I had I had a conscience when I would do certain things. Certain things that I did wrong, I knew I was doing them wrong. When I wouldn't do my homework, I knew I wasn't doing my homework. I knew I was slacking off and stuff like that. It's some children, if you don't not necessarily control them, but if you don't constantly watch them and make sure that things are being done, they won't do it. It will not get done. They will not do it. They will not listen, because I noticed that like with a lot of my homeboys, like with a lot of my homeboys, and before I say this, I'm gonna have to say this too. Maybe they're not doing it because it's another issue that's not being addressed. So I'm gonna just preference that too, because that could be something too. Sometimes there's unresolved issues in children, which results to them not having confidence, which results to them not wanting to do certain things they have to do. And sometimes you just have to be patient and have those heart to hearts to get through to them, to where you don't have to be on their back. So I do have to say that too. But with a lot of my homeboys, a lot of them slacked off, not because, they didn't have certain things or anything like that. A lot of them just didn't do shit because they just didn't want to do it. And maybe it could be a deeper issue, but I looked at it like, and this is on the outside looking in, because I grew up, when I was young, my parents didn't have much. When I was growing up, shit, I didn't even drink juice growing up. I drank sugar water, water with sugar in it and stirred up. I didn't have juice. I didn't grow up drinking Minute Maid and Tropical Fantasy and, I didn't grow up drinking that like that. My parents didn't have much. So we struggled a lot. So a lot of things that my friends had, I looked at it like, damn, they living a good life. Like, why the hell are they acting up? They had all the toys. When I go over their house, They got all of the wrestling toys. They ordering all the wrestling pay-per-views. They had cable. I didn't have cable growing up. You know, I didn't have a lot of things I didn't have. So I used to look at my friends like, damn, why you just don't go to school? Like, that's all he have to do. And he wasn't going to school. They still had the J's. They still was fly. I didn't grow up like that. So I'm looking like, damn, what is it that's making him, not do the right thing? But now that I'm older, it could be a deeper issue. And this goes into my next question. What do y'all think is what do y'all think is some of these deep rooted issues that some of these children may be dealing with, and the reason why they may be acting up, or they don't have enough confidence in trying to be the best they want to be, or just live up to their own expectations? Like, what do y'all think is some of these issues that they're dealing
Parents.
That's a good question. Yep, I agree. The parents, because I feel like um, the lack of giving them the opportunity to think for themselves and to govern themselves can be an issue as well. Because like you said about the games and stuff like that, I grew up the same way. We was restricted not due to financials, but just because it was just forbidden for us for the most part. And I had cousins and stuff who had all the games and who had all this and all that, and we didn't have. So I came with the mindset of I'm gonna give my children everything. But then I saw the impact it was having on my baby, and he had every game system, every game known, and every time a new one come out, he just asks, and me and Dad we make it happen. And then I started to realize, okay, he's not learning from this. He's learning that, oh, I can just ask Mom and Dad, and boom, it appears. So what I did was, with his allowance, I tell him, okay, you just got this game, you ain't playing these other games, and I keep buying these, and you just want more, more, more. Cool. This is how much allowance you get. This is how much that costs. Add it up. See how much you got to save up. See what you got to do to get it, and it's yours. And play it whenever you want to. And that's what he would do. And he appreciated it more. And he played it more. But at the same time, I didn't restrict him. But I tell him, like, okay, summertime, you ain't got to go to bed. It's on you. You know when you tired. You know when you sleepy. You know when you had too much game time. But I tell you what we gonna do in the morning. At 11 o'clock, we going to the water park. I'm gonna try to wake you up. But if you've been up 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, you fell asleep behind the controller, and you're not willing to get up, you missed that. And after, oh, Mom, it's 4 o'clock. Wait, what happened? I thought you was in a coma. I, you was playing the game. You chose to play the game until you passed out. And so I told you we was going at 12 o'clock. I tried to wake you up. You didn't want to get up because you was tired. You was sleepy. So we didn't go. Maybe we'll try it again tomorrow. I don't know. But then eventually he started to say, okay, good night, Mom. I'm going to bed. Oh, you going to bed? Yes, because I want to go to the zoo tomorrow. You know. So then he learned responsibility in more ways than one. He knew when to shut it off and go to bed because I'm going to be too tired, I'm going to be sleepy, and I'm not going to be wanting to get up to do the next thing I want to do. And also, if I want this, I can get it, not ask for it, but I can also, learn how to save my money, spend my money, buy it for myself. And that little guy buys all kind of stuff for himself now. It's paid out quite nicely.
with? Okay. Do y'all feel like um parent breakups and divorces really affect children and their behavior and their psyche?
Oh, let me get on that other question a little more one time.
Okay.
Yeah, the and what was on? Oh, the behavior things. Yeah, it ain't just the parent. Another thing I wanted to bring up was like the chemicals and shit in the food, the imbalances, the high fructose corn syrup, for instance. You know, the attention deficit disorder claims, allegations or whatever you call it. You know what I'm saying? All these different imbalances that's caused by these food ingredients and stuff. That's another problem. The diet, that bottom line, the diet, the things the children are eating, the junk foods and all that shit. It makes them hard to concentrate, focus, and do the right thing. So I wanted to elaborate on that too.
I agree wholeheartedly. I agree. I agree. I agree. Because the same thing was going on with my child, and they tried to diagnose him with this, that, and the third. And when we started letting him, grow his vegetables and make his own homemade pizza from the tomatoes and the basil that he grew and all that kind of stuff, and he made his own decision that he was going to let go of the meat with the hormones in it and all these juices and all that other kind of stuff. Plus, he was tired of being, big, and it was a big difference. It was a big difference in his behavior, and also I think it was Michelle Obama who came into the school systems and started implementing healthier lunches. There's studies that's being done to even back up that point that the schools that have changed to healthier snacks and whatnot in the vending machines and in the lunch, the children have better behaviors. We all know that there are chemicals in these foods and drinks that causes all kinds of stuff so that they can profit off of it and they can diagnose your child. That is a fact. That is a fact. And when you have parents that try to do the quick and easy, or for financial reasons, or just for lack of learning how to economically shop healthier, their children tend to have the most behavioral problems because they are being chemically controlled
And
to a
then
certain degree.
junk food they eat on top of the bad food that they eat. The chips and the Debbie's and all the shit from the corner stores, the little hug juices and all that stuff. Those things really affect the function of the brain, man, and how these kids, respond to being able to focus on certain things for long periods of time. So yeah, that shit deep, man.
That's a fact. That's a fact because my youngest, he would get migraines a lot. And I would start to tell him, well, when you do have your extra money and we go to the store, look at what you're buying. Well, what's wrong with that? I started showing him documentaries of other little children who was having issues and showing him, documentaries of these snacks and the things that they have in it and what they can cause and all that kind of stuff. And when he decided, okay, I don't want to feel like this anymore, so I'll try the healthier versions, and started to realize that he wasn't going through a lot of the physical problems that he was, then he himself would decide, okay, let's go to the farmer's market and get some fruit instead. So,
Well, this J tip for me, people notice that sometimes I do cook and I'm always trying to cook healthy, but at the same time too, and I think it's very important that we don't stress. We have to learn to read labels as adult and teach our kids how to read labels. How many milligrams it is, how much sugar it is, how much sugar it is, how much artificial. We got to learn how to shop right because some I know for me when I shop, sometimes I have to catch me out there. So sometimes I look whatever I shop, I read the labels because when I read the labels, that's when I'm gonna cook because I'm preserving my body to eat healthy and to live longer, and that is very important in our community, especially farmer market in our community. Like I just found not too long ago, the farmer market where I live at is going to be gone about like 2 weeks after my birthday in June. I gotta find another farmer market. I think there's another farmer market. I might have to travel almost 25 miles to get some good food. So we gotta advocate good food, but also we have to advocate how to read labels. We just cannot pick up any cheap thing. Oh yeah, this gonna work. No, no. Sometimes you gotta pay a little more to be healthy. Let me say it again. You gotta pay a little more to be healthy. Learn how to read labels, and at the same time teach our kids because we showing them how to advocate for themselves, advocates for their human being, advocate for being healthy. So when they get older, it be repetition for them. Man, that's why that we should do more for that. That's my take on it.
Now I agree with the reading labels and everything, but I also feel like anything that's been packaged or processed is going to have a negative effect. I'm a firm advocate for teaching them to get what grows out the ground and growing it yourself, and that can be done. There's no excuse for it. Um, Fortunately for me, where I live, sometimes we do have to make changes like move to a better area. Move to a place where we can grow food. Move to a place that has farmer markets and stuff like that doesn't have food oasis because here, in Atlanta, there's farmer markets like there are liquor stores in most places. Like you can't go half a mile down the road without running into a farmer's market. So if you move to a more agricultural place or you learn how to grow yourself and instill that in your children, then they're guaranteed a better you know position on this thing.
Yeah, of course. But we have to, we have to be real. Most people don't have land to grow, and they damn sure don't even have the space to grow indoors. So we have to be real with that, But that's definitely the approach, growing, your own food, and anything packaged and processed more than likely is harmful and has some negative things in it, even organic products. Say it all the time. Just because it's organic don't mean it's healthy. But if you're forced to buy packaged products, that's the route you have to take. And I can guarantee you that child that's getting beat, I bet y'all any motherfucking thing, that child that's getting beat does not have a healthy diet. Guarantee you, I can show you everything that kid is consuming, and I don't even got to know the kid. I can tell you what that child is eating on a daily basis, and I can tell you how that child behaves. So, hashtag no more spanking.
Agree. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. So, damn, I forgot the question.
About
About
the parents breaking up or something.
yeah. How do y'all feel about um? And I'm gonna just give my answer too, and then y'all can answer. But the question was, do y'all feel that um, like parents breaking up or divorces and stuff like that? How do y'all feel like that affect um children? Because it impacted me very hard. It affected me to the point where I feel like I lost my family. You know, because it was always just because I'm the only child. I don't
D,
have I don't have no brothers and sisters.
D,
Yo,
but did it affect you? Did it was it well, okay? Because you was getting your ass whooped when mom and dad was there. So did it affect your behavior, and that's why you was getting the beat, the whoopings and shit? That's you know you feel me?
nah, I feel it affected me more. It affected me more psychologically and emotionally. than me acting out. Than me acting out.
Bingo.
It affected me more psychologically. It I had lower self-esteem. I looked at myself different, you know, because my dad wasn't around. So it was like, and when you a little boy and your dad around, you look at your dad like he your hero, especially if he treated you a certain way.
Facts.
So so it was like when my dad wasn't there, I felt powerless. Like when Superman loses his powers or Iron Man loses his armor, like I felt powerless, I felt down, and my dad, when I used to go and visit him, he used to always say, like, yo, why you always look mad? Why you always look sad? And I used to be like, I don't know. I don't know. But he really knew what it was. And it was because of their breakup. It was because of my mom and my dad breaking up. And that's one reason, with me and my family, I don't never want to I don't never want my sons to go through that because I know how that feels, man. And when I used to look at that on TV, like when I used to see little Caucasian kids, crying and going crazy, like because they parents getting a divorce and stuff like that. I used to be like, damn, why they going so crazy? Until it happened with me. And my parents wasn't even married. They just broke up. So I think it definitely affects the children. And I think to some children it affects their behavior. Cause a lot of my homeboys that didn't grow up with their dad and had to watch their mom deal with different dudes and all that type of shit, it made them act out. It made them act out. It made them hyper masculine. They wanted to be bullies. They wanted to be tough guys. You know, and now that I'm older, I looked at it as damn. They just wanted to feel like a man because their dad wasn't around to teach them to be one. So they running around thinking they acting like a man when they not. You know.
That's powerful there, and I agree with you on that. It does have an impact. I know firsthand because um, my parents were married, and I know when they split up, it was a very difficult time for me. It was confusing, and it's like, why we got to go through this? You know, when your family being together is all you've ever known, you don't want anything different, and you would spend your whole life, even as a young adult or adolescent, wishing that they would just deal with whatever it is that separated them and get back together. And it sometimes you don't know that that's what it is. You don't know how deeply it impacts you because I didn't until me and my youngest son's father got a divorce, and it was hard, hard on my son. And I had to really break it down and explain to his dad that, take it easy on him because a part of his acting up is him not being okay with us not being together anymore. I mean, it was real hard on him, and he spent years asking why. When you're together, you're together, you love each other, blah blah blah. But when you going through that separation, that divorce, and you're fighting over the property, this, that, and the third, it's you're not friendly with each other. Sometimes you don't. The child doesn't even get to see you both in the same room at the same time. And I think it's very important for us to understand that this impacts the child because that child loves both of you, and that child is a part of both of you, and they don't. have nothing to do with none of that stuff, but it impacts them greatly. It does. I've seen it firsthand, and it took years. It took my child to become a preteen for him to finally say, okay, I'm just going to accept it and I'm going to let it go. You know, he always was advocating for, why can't both of you just come together, and why can't you just come over our house, and why can't you just do this, and why can't and sad and crying and all of this and asking questions, and mom, you don't like dad anymore, and dad, you don't like mom anymore, and just pushing and pushing, and it took me watching him go through this, to not only break my heart, but to make me also realize I was going through the same doggone thing. Because even though I wasn't pushing like he was, I was feeling like, man, why don't they just get back together and just be mom, dad, and us again? Like, why do we have to deal with this? Why you got to come over and visit, or why we got to go here to see you and come back, and you're not come home every day and all this other kind of stuff. It affects the child's reality, their identity. It can have a very, very devastating, and we've seen it in movies, like Dee said, with the little white kids and stuff. We see it in movies all the time, and I think a lot of children who are, I guess, black, if you want to say, they go through it a lot when they have had their parents, and they don't even realize what it is that they're experiencing. They don't realize how deeply it's impacting them that their parents aren't actually together anymore. They have displaced, anger, displaced acting out in school, displaced, emotions, because nobody's considering them, and nobody's talking to them, and nobody's helping them understand, this isn't it's not your fault. Unfortunately, this happens, they get nothing except for they got to just start adapting to this new reality, which they lose a lot of their security and everything like that, So, because I think my baby was 4 or 5 years old when we split. He went from, basically sleeping in the bed with us every night to, okay, dad's coming to pick me up, and I'm not running to meet dad at the door when he comes home, all of that kind of stuff. That can completely crush and change a child's world, and it definitely will affect them if they don't have proper guidance to, help deal with it and understand what that is and where it's coming from and what to do with it.
Yeah, well, I ain't experienced that, but my children did, and I didn't see a, I seen a slight change, in their behavior, but nothing major. And honestly, I don't think it was the breakup. I think it was more of the dude that they mom started to deal with. And I'm keeping it 100. I'm just saying. The environment totally changed, and I just think uh from them. Now, don't get me wrong. I know they were affected by me not being in the house no more, not tucking them in the bed every night. Because that's the type of dad I was. I tucked them in every night. Like I didn't miss a night, y'all. Every night I was there, I tuck them in. So I know they was affected by that, but they behavior, they didn't get bad, like where you spank them, but they did cut up a couple times, but it calmed down. But it wasn't like right when we broke up. So that's why I don't really credit that. That's why I think it more of, when the dudes start coming around and coming to their house, just them being in the house now with cigarette smokers being in the house. Like my kids ain't never seen shit like this. Just everything changed. So, I think that's what affected their behavior more than me not being there. Because even though I wasn't in the house, I was still active, but it was different. So yeah, I didn't experience that, but I know breakups affect you know almost everybody. But we really talking about the spanking aspect, right, y'all? Like we talking about being affected where their behavior started to change, where now they getting their asses whooped. Because we on the topic of spanking. We ain't talking about a kid getting emotionally damaged because mom and dad broke up. Of course, that's automatic. We know that. We talking about them start to cut up. Now they getting their ass whooped. And crediting it that to parents breaking up, I think that's very rare. Very rare. Of course, we can find the case for every goddamn thing, but I think it's very rare that these children are getting whooped because mom and dad broke up. Half of them, mom and dad wasn't there to begin with. They didn't even have no family structure. We got all these kids ain't even no marriages. Nobody ain't no family structure, period. We could just drop the bomb right there and just say it ain't no family structure. Fuck the breakups. That's a whole nother thing, because if it was a breakup, at least it was a structure there first. And if it was a structure there, and if the right things was taught to the children from day one, more than likely they're not gonna deviate. They ain't gonna start to fuck up and cut up, and then you got to start beating them. More than likely. So if it was a breakup, it was a structure, so that's just what I think on that. So that's just what I'm thinking. Is we talking about that, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, Suge, I understand what you're saying, and I agree with you to a certain degree. But I can understand where D is going with this, and I think that it's just a part of looking at um, giving parents options to look at other factors instead of saying, "Oh, I need to beat him because he acting this way," but start looking into why might your child be acting this way, because although I laughed at you a little bit, I can definitely have a story of my own to relate to that, because I know my two middle children who were 15 months apart, they were perfect, you know, after my first marriage. And then it's like we were by ourselves for a while, and then I got remarried, and oh, they loved their new stepdad and everything like that. But then that's when the behavioral problems started to come in, and they came in heavy. And so when I would sit down and talk with them, and what's going on? What's with this new, behaviors y'all presenting? Oh, you was this kind of mom, and that and the third, and it was just us, and blah blah blah, and now we got him. I thought y'all loved him. I thought y'all, So it does affect the children, and it affects their behavior. So I think it does kind of tie in a little bit, because sometimes we tend to think, oh, the child is just acting up. We gotta handle this behavior, but we're not looking at all of the reasons, or some, possible options as to why this might be happening. And like you said, the lack thereof of the family structure is also one of them.
Well, all right, I got you. I disagree though. I bet you the kid was getting their ass whooped before the breakup. I disagree, but hey.
And this JT, and also we gotta think about this too, that sometimes there are some parents that stay together for a long time. It doesn't mean they not. It doesn't mean they don't love each other. They just not in love with each other. Like for instance, like my late father. My late father was a difficult man to deal with. Did when I'm talking about difficult. But my mother put up with him, vice versa. She that's why he put up with her. But I know there's many times that my father had did things seen that he thinks everything was all right, but it was definitely trickling down to the family. I could remember that it was like constant arguments. That some things that I ain't do. There's certain things like, and so of that too in our community, we suffer with that because sometimes there's misconception. Oh yeah, we see two family, they happy, la la la. A lot of times it's not like that. Especially like if I see I wasn't born no silver spoon in my mouth. Like this one says, he said sugar and water and stuff. I was making sugar and water and vanilla extract. That was my maple leaf Kool-Aid. All right. And it was a lot of things my mother and father used to argue because things wasn't this, things wasn't that. Yeah, there always gonna be arguments, yes. but it was constant arguments for years and years and years, and it does play a toll on your psyche. And I was always about breaking cycles. And then when I learned from my parents, they always say, "Don't be like we do. Be better than that." I remember when my father was dying on his dying bed, he said, "Be better. You do have choices." And so sometimes that we have to learn from our parents to be better, because if not, the cycle will continue. I don't care how many studies we do. I don't care how many situations you analyze it. If you're not willing to meet up front with, if you're not willing to tell the truth, if you're not willing to understand that you make those mistakes, the cycle does continue, and that's why our family unit is not strong what it used to be, because we refuse to understand that we play a part. And until we understand that, it's going to continue. So when we see two parents happy, no, sometimes it's not happy, and it could be a lot. It could be a lot of reasons. It could be a lot of reasons. It could be internal. It could be in-laws. It could be mothers. It could be some mother-in-laws, and that they was married before too. So I could talk to that too. So there's a lot of things that we have to consider, and but at the same time we have to work. We have to learn to work as one instead of work as I. That's my thought.
Man, that's a good point, JT. That's a really, really, really good point because I can say for a fact that, I was taught, oh, you get married, you stay together no matter what. It's about the family being together, but all that glitters is not gold all the time, and it can have an effect on the children if it's not a healthy marriage, if it's not, a proper marriage, and the children can sense even what you try to hide. You all living together, so they can sense that and they can see that you're settling for less or you're tolerating being treated this way or, it's taken away from what they need and what they deserve in life. And, I was in my second marriage, I was with him for over 10 years and I should have been left a long time ago. And I'm thinking I'm doing the right thing by keeping my family together, but at the same time losing respect of my older children because they knew that that was not a good environment for myself. But I was still there. So you're right.
I mean, I feel like we just gotta look at, you know, we gotta look at the side effects of certain things sometimes. It may not be the main reason, but side effects always play a part. It always do. And as I got older and I started talking to my friends, and I used to ask them like, or they used to always tell me, like, yo, you lucky you grew up with your dad, or you knew your dad and shit like that. I didn't grow up with my dad. And I noticed that their disposition about life is very different from mine, and that's where I see that stuff played a very big part. Now, a lot of them, they got spankings when they were young, but as they got older, the spankings didn't work no more. So the mothers couldn't even really handle them. So a lot of them just got put out. Like a lot of the mothers just basically like threw them away. Like, yo, you getting too old, too big. I can't spank you no more. So get out my house type shit. And that turned into more resentment, and it just turned them into different people. And now that, we're the age that we are, sometimes we have those types of conversations because they have children now. And even though, you know, um, their dad maybe wasn't there for them, they're good dads. And they make sure that they there for their children. And they make sure that, you know, things is on the up and up with their children. So sometimes we do gotta look at the side effects of shit, you know? And that's why I even brought up that whole dynamic of a child, maybe losing a parent, because even, with me, being that my mom grew up abusing me, that made me more harsh toward women growing up. I was always much when it came to women, I was very defensive. I was always on a defense because I was used to getting verbally abused or physically abused, So I was very defensive towards women. That's a side effect of abuse, you know? And later on in life, that shit hurt me when I started dealing with women more and more in relationships. I was an asshole in a lot of ways. I ruined some good relationships too, just being an asshole because I was so defensive toward women. Because growing up, I had to always be on the defense. I had to always take insults, or I was trying to block a belt or block a slap, So those are some of the side effects of, being abused, and that shit plays out in your life, you know?
That's that's very insightful. It really is. I mean, I can't personally speak on that, but it does help give a lot of insight as to the effect that, we as a parent, male or female, can have on the opposite sex child, the way we treat them because we're their first example of that opposite sex. It can have an effect on how they look at, the opposite sex as they're, maturing and dealing with relationships. It can affect their very relationship with the opposite sex. So that's very insightful.
Anybody else want to touch on that, or y'all want to move on to something else? Because I probably take the stream a little while longer, then I'm gonna shut it down. So anything else y'all want to touch on this subject?
Yeah, I just want to say one more last thing, family, is this that we have to understand too that, and I think that sometimes we want to play the blame game. And sometimes I remember my mom, she used to tell me, you got to understand how your father was raised. And I think until we understand how our parents was raised, how our grandparents was raised and stuff like that. Like, I just want to give a little history and then you can move on as to the one. Is that a lot of our people and especially in the South, or you got West and stuff, West and it's, all through the South of this USA, our people was raised very hard. They have to go through hard times. They had to go through generations of being slaves. And at the same time, when the South wasn't having no jobs, I'm talking about in going into the 30s and the 40s, a lot of our people from the South was migrating to the East, Midwest, Mideast, eastern part of this USA to find jobs to provide for the family. There's quite a few men that we had to fight for wars and come back to find that we still second class citizens. So to this day, we still are to a certain extent, but that's another story. But a lot of them have not find. I mean, not find. Let me rewind that. They have not break the cycle. They didn't have a chance because it was coming down on them so fast in generation. It was like assembly line. It was like assembly line and stuff. So when you start hitting the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000, you hit it right now. We in effect on that. And I appreciate that, my mom. So you have to understand the background. And I think that we had until we understand what's really going on, we have to go back. I know there's some people that don't like to go back, but we have to go back the way how they was raised. It wasn't really no love back then. I'm not gonna say it wasn't no love, but it wasn't a lot of constructive love, structure love. And it's like, okay, this how it is, and that's it. And I have to understand that. And it goes to me when my father was dying in 89, February, when I talked to him, and then less than a month later, he passed away. I had to come to grips with that. My father came up very hard. A lot of people had disappointed, had left him. And my own way, I had to forgive him the way he treated me. Does it make it right? No, it doesn't make it right. But we have to understand the background. When you understand the background, that's when we can make certain steps to break the cycles. But a lot of us do not want to do that, and we want to play victim for a long time. But at the same time, it will hurt your growth as a human being. So we have to learn to break cycles. That's as I always say to myself, I'm the person breaking cycles all through my life. I'm breaking this vicious cycle, no matter what. Not just for me, but for my future family, being a godfather, but for our community, whatever it is. I'm gonna break that cycle for myself first. So let's learn to know the background and break the cycle. And that's what my parents always taught me. Break the cycle. That's it. Thank you. Thanks so much. Appreciate that.
Damn, JT, that was powerful right there. That was super powerful. You are so right. You're so right because I can say for a fact I spent a lot of my childhood in early teen years being just hating my mother, just like being super mad at her and not understanding why she chose routes she chose, why she did the things she did or didn't do or wasn't able to or things of that nature. And it wasn't until I became like 15 or 16 and she and I began to have real conversations and she explained to me what it was like for her growing up, what her experience with her parents was like, what her life was like, and what all she knew. And that is when I began to start to understand she didn't know anything different. She wasn't taught anything different. Her life was hard. So what you're saying is very powerful, and it also did help. You know, it took some conceptualizing and compartmentalizing over the years afterwards, for me to begin to understand that, okay, I got to make sure that I don't repeat certain cycles that she's been going through because I can see how what has been done to her, she's been doing it to me. And I can see, certain traits in myself that will continue because I don't know any different currently if I don't begin to understand that that's what leads to destruction. So you are right, and not playing a victim, but also understanding that this is the tools that they had, this is the treatment that they had, this is the understanding that they have, this is the life that they had. And at the end of the day, sometimes they're just doing the best that they can with what they have. So that everything you said was very powerful.
You want to touch on that shit?
Man, that was beautiful, man. I'll just touch on some of the points made in the chat room. People asking, how to break the cycle. And TTHP, you know, um, like you just said, you break the cycle by doing the opposite. And I touched on that earlier. How I bought my son a pair of shoes when he was fucking up. And told him, you get a whole lot more if you just start give me better behavior. And his grades actually improved, y'all, after that. So, those things, those types of things we gotta try. It's just one method. I ain't saying that's the fucking answer, and we just all go out and do this. It's just an answer, something different. We don't do stuff like that when our kids fuck up. So try it. You don't know the effect it's gonna have. Don't shoot the idea down before you even try it. You know what I'm saying? And they don't try it once. Try it again. Just like you beat your kid fucking 6, 8, 12 goddamn times a week, right? And it ain't working. You still beating your kid ass, right? So try something different, y'all. Hashtag no more spanking.
I agree with that. I agree with that. Just, based off
Yep.
what JT and Akasha just touched on. Our parents operated from the little bit of information that they had. And we have more information. That's why we can try other methods. We know other things that's out there. Our parents they didn't have that. You know, they operated out of what they knew and what they had. And it wasn't much. So, that ties into everything they just touched on too. We know more. We're in an information age. We saw things not work. We even knew the shit didn't work on us. So I mean that's a fact, man. And we should always employ alternative things, man. We shouldn't be so quick to, that shouldn't even be an option at this point. That shouldn't be an option. It's so much other things that we can do.
Thank
You
you. Say
know,
it one more time, man. It shouldn't even be an
it
option.
shouldn't even be an option at this point. It shouldn't because, like I was just saying earlier with my 12-year-old son, once we put it out there that we gonna take him to the detention center and show him that you doing this behavior, what it turns into and where you can end up, he took that shit serious, man. He don't want to visit there. That's why his grades shut the fuck up. Cause he didn't want to visit that place. He don't want to be around them. He don't never want to be there. And I know, that he took that shit to heart. Cause the other day I asked him too, just on a random. I'm like, yo, Jamel, you read your affirmations? He said, yeah, I read them, and I read them in the morning too. Now, I stopped even asking him about that, you know, because when his grades was slipping, I'm like, damn, what is it? What what is not clicking? Is it so I'm like, let me see if it's his self-esteem. Maybe he don't feel like he's worthy to have these grades, or maybe he feel like that won't help him in life. So what I made him do was, well, what I did, I looked up like 50 affirmations and I printed them all out and I made him hang them up on his wall by his bed. And I would tell him to read them when he wake up in the morning to go to school and when he goes to bed, before he go to bed. And for punishment, I used to make him read them in front of me. But after that, one day I just asked him. And he was like, yeah, I'll be reading them. And I noticed certain things and his behavior started to change. And now that I'm noticing his grades is going up and they going up. So I'm like, damn, that shit actually worked. We actually touched something that we didn't see, you know? And all spankings do, man, is it's like It's like patching up a wound that needs stitches. You need stitches, but you putting a band-aid on. That's all that shit is, man. It don't fix the problem. It doesn't.
Yeah, and go more your point there, Swan, and you notice that you, Kasha, maybe Shook, I always say this: advocate, advocate for yourselves, and I think that is the key word that we need to say. One, we have to learn to be worthy to ourselves. You have to advocate for yourself. You see, I learned this when I was very young, when I was just talked about a few things. We have to learn to be worthy and advocate for yourself. Advocate for your own humanity. When you know that, that means you're on your way breaking cycles. I'm not saying it's going to be overnight. It's going to take time. Trust me. For a person, I'm living proof. You have to understand that you're worthy. Wherever your parents done, whatever, that's the past. That's them. You don't have to be part of that. They did the best they could. Sometimes we might not even like it, but you, your own person, advocate for yourself. That's the problem of us as a people. We don't think that we worthy of certain things. I'm worthy of whatever God give me, whatever anybody give me. I'm worthy of it. I advocate for myself. Because when I advocate for myself, and a few others will see it, and then they will understand, oh, wow, I could do it too. We have to learn to set examples of advocacy. We have to, of whatever level it is. Advocate for yourself, because that's what I preach on my channel, and that's I'm all about. Transition, transform yourself to strive to be great, because our humanity does count. Let me repeat that. Our humanity count as melanin people. Thank you.
I want to touch on something Dee was saying, if I could, real quick, before I lose my train of thought. What he was saying about the affirmations, that reminded me of something that I did with my son too that helped. Um, I bought him a journal, and I know it, with me growing up, females were the ones who tend to get like diaries or whatever. But I bought him a journal, and I told him, I said, I want you to write something every day. I don't care what it is. I don't care if you're writing about your favorite game, what you want to do when you get home from school. If you're feeling frustrated, if the teacher's getting on your nerves, if somebody in class is getting on your nerves, instead of saying it out loud or acting up on it, pull out your tablet. And I discussed this with the teachers. If he pulls out his tablet and he needs to write, just let him write. Forget the lesson. Forget what you want him to concentrate on. Forget all that. Let him write. Let's try it. I had to bargain with them. Let's try it for a month and see how the changes come about. And I told him, I said, if you want to talk to me about something you wrote in your tablet, fine. We can discuss it. You don't have to share everything. Just share what you want to share. If you don't want to share anything, that's fine. But I want you to write something every single day. I don't care if you draw a picture. And I would ask him, how was your day? Did you have any problems? Did you pull out your tablet like I asked you to? Because at first he didn't want it. He didn't want to do it. And I said, look, just try it. Write something down. I don't care what it is. You don't have to write about what you're upset about. And you don't have to tell me or your dad what's in your tablet. That's your own. I gave him the whole nine with the lock and the key. He would write in it. I would talk to him. I said, is this helping you? Yes. And then he began to start to share some stuff. And then it would take him to a place where he was not only expressing his own thoughts and he could go back and read it and he could see, okay, I was upset then and that's how I felt at the time, but I don't even feel like that no more. I don't even know why I was there, but at least I put it down on paper and I didn't act up on it. Then he started to realize he's coming up with ideas. Instead of focusing on what's making him upset, he's coming up with ideas of, what he wants to do with the next thing he's developing because he's nerd like his mom into the gaming and developing and stuff like that. He's coming up with new ideas and he's expressing things um that he doesn't even. Sometimes he'll children will think about stuff and then they just lose it, but he's able to go back and revisit it and he's learning more about himself and it's giving him an avenue of escape. So and I see that also as a way of having the same impact as those affirmations. So that was something that helped us about, and it became not a chore for him but it became something that he you know actually wanted to do, and then when he wanted to share he shared you know
No doubt. No doubt. No doubt. So, is there anything else y'all want to say before we close out? And do y'all feel like well, I'm gonna pose this question to the chat. Would y'all like us to do a part two to this show where we have an open panel and I'll send the links out to people who want to come on and express their feelings about this topic. If y'all want a part two or open panel to this show, type one in the chat. Type one in the chat now. If y'all would like
I
a
want to
part
give
two.
a shout out. I want to give a shout out. I got to give a shout out to the Truth Hurts podcast because that is a subscriber of my channel. And I want to thank you so very much for coming over and enjoying the show and participating in the chat. And they also said that they subscribe to your channel, so they are finding value here. And I appreciate that very much. I really do. So thank you so much, the Truth Hurts podcast, for coming over and checking us out and participating in the chat, and also for subscribing. Thank you.
Definitely. Definitely appreciate that. Thanks for tuning in, man. Definitely appreciate that. Go ahead, bro.
I just wanted to piggyback off what you said. It ain't no reason. It's absolutely shouldn't be a resort to hit the child, man. Absolutely no reason to spank these children, y'all. If you get to a point, you need to check your motherfucking self, your parenting skills. If your children is out of line to a point, you even got to think, what can a child do to deserve to get hit? Like seriously, you have to think about that. Ask yourself, what if somebody hit you for some? What if you crashed into somebody's car and they got out and punched you in the face, or slapped you and said, "Man, you hit me on shit," or took their belt off and started popping you? You know, what would you do? Just think about how your child feel now. See how crazy you look now when you over there hitting a defenseless child who can't do shit, and you yelling at them, screaming at them, belittling them as if they ain't faced with enough shit in this world. It's absolutely no reason to spank, hit, pop, whoop, goddamn, all these words we attach. It's abuse. Y'all see the title? It's abuse.
I want you just trigger something, Chug, and I want to make a point. I want to piggyback off what you're saying and make a point here, just from my experience and my observations. I grew up getting the dog do beat out of me, and you learn to be a fighter. And I was taught go out there and beat their ass. Don't come back in here until you beat their ass. Don't run from a fight. Blah blah blah. I think a lot of us grew up like that, but I'm just saying I was a fighter. Um, my older children, who I did spank, they beat your ass. They were fighters. Um, my youngest son, who I did not spank, um, he's not a fighter. He's a thinker. He's a thinker. He has learned through different methods that I have taught him to think his way out of a situation so it doesn't even have to escalate into violence. And he has also been one to ground me at times, even in traffic, like you said. I would blow the horn even at an early age. No, mom, don't do that. Don't blow the horn. I said, well, son, I gotta let them know they doing wrong and they need not to do this again. And don't cut me off or don't do this. That's dangerous. It's bad. This is why mom is doing this. No, mom, don't do that. Just he will always be the voice of reason. He will always, you know, try to think of other ways to solve the issue besides fighting because he was taught at an early age to think and come up with resolutions. And my older children, hey, I was always at the age. She done beat him down again. He done beat him down again. Blah blah blah. Because that was their first thing to do. Because that was my first thing to do, and that was what I did with them. Oh, you cutting up? Okay, come on. You know what you got to get. You got to get that spanking. So that was their result. It wasn't enough thinking your way out of stuff and resolving the issue so it doesn't have to escalate. And that can help them in the real world, in the adult world. It can help keep them away from trouble. It can help them keep them away from getting killed. It can help them um, keep them from getting fired from a job, or getting labeled and getting a record. All of these things. And we know nowadays having a temper and being quick to think of violence as your first solution because that's what you were raised in, that could get you locked up. It could get you shot. It could get you killed because people these days they don't know about all that. So it's good and it's very helpful and it's life saving to have critical thinking skills, which is what you teach your child when you don't jump to violence and you teach them how to think for themselves and how to think out the problems and they actually see you doing it with them. So
Right, right. So, any last words before I close out, y'all?
All I could say, I'm sorry, sis. I'm just saying one thing.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
The one thing that I want to say in the chat and the panel, it goes to me too, is that let's be better parents. Let's be better aunts, uncles to our kids. And let's learn whatever we went through in the past, let it stays in the past. We don't have to be part of the past, but we could be a fresh air for our future. And I want people to read my hashtags and to understand, to advocate for ourselves. We have to learn to advocate for our own humanity. When we do that, we become better parents and our kids become better people. And there's always rules and regulations. We just got to find out how the better ways how to enforce it. Thank you.
I have one final thing that I want to say, and I'm gonna shut my mouth. I love the fact that I see in the chat room that everybody wants to do. Well, not everybody, but a lot of people want to do a part two. They want to be a part of the panel. I think that is wonderful because I think this is not something that we could just remedy in one discussion. I think it's great. And I would love to do it on my platform because I want some of the people who come and subscribe to my channel, I want them to actually participate in this too as well and let's spread it around, reach more people, reach different audiences and everybody come over there and Suge, what's going on with you?
What the fuck are you doing?
What you Suge? Okay.
You gonna do?
No, you
The fuck is that? Come here. You told me she took the kids in the other car. She did, boss. She did every fucking day. I don't know what's going
Suge,
on.
what you playing? What you playing? Are you are you speaking or
Don't fuck away. I said, I'll bet eso. Matamos a este tipo solo, sin mujer, sin hijo. Si Sosa dice que lo hagamos ahora, lo hacemos ahora. Vamos. Fucking guy. Ok, ahora está bien, quédate aquí. Despacio, despacio. Fucking you fuckers. Ok, con calma. Tú little kiss acá. This is so fucking bad. This is so fucking bad. Los estás perdiendo, mira. Los estás perdiendo. Okay, I see him, all right? I see him. 10 metros. 10 metros. Muévete. Muévete. Okay, shut the fuck up, okay? Gotcha. You die, motherfucker! What do you think I am, huh? What do you think I am, fucking worm like you? I told you, man. I told you, don't fuck with me. I told you, no fucking kids. No, but you wouldn't listen.
Okay. So shout out to everybody in the chat. I appreciate it. We appreciate everybody for staying up with us. You know, I was surprised it turned out the way it did, but it turned out very good, very powerful. I love the responses in the chat. You know, I see everybody agrees to a part two. So we will be doing a part two. It will be on I'm not sure which channel, but it will be on my sister Akasha's show. We will be doing a part two. Um, this was a great show, man. I'm glad we was able to express certain things and get certain things out, you know, because this is a classic example on why I created the saying that I have for my channel, which is heal before we build, because as we can see, not only from us on the panel, but just from the responses in the chat, that a lot of us, damn near all of us, has dealt with trauma. And I like where my brother JT is coming from, because what he's saying is that we must understand that we all are victims of trauma, even our parents. And that's why they were doing what they were doing. And that is one of the reasons why, you know, I was able to reconcile my relationship with my mom. Because as I got older, I started to see, well, damn, imagine what my mom went through. Who knows what she went through? She never told me, you know? So, you know, like the brother was saying, he had to understand that about his dad, that his dad was only doing what he knew. And that's all he knew. And a lot of people grow up like that. But like he said, it's okay for us to advocate for ourselves, to be better. And that's the only way we're going to do that is if we go through that process of healing. And the first step to that is forgiveness. We must forgive. We may not ever forget, but we must forgive and move on. And if we don't forgive, we'll never move on. But we must forgive, man. All of the things that we went through, no matter who put us through it, we must forgive so we can grow and progress and be the people that we want to be. And that's why I came up with the saying, we must heal before we build. Because a lot of the issues that plague us is these issues that we're talking about tonight. It could have just started from you just getting your ass whooped when you was young. And you got your ass whooped so much, it became normal. So what you basically did was normalize abuse. That's what you did in your mind. You started making yourself feel okay to be abused. And that makes people dysfunctional, which leads to dysfunctional relationships, which leads to broken families and more hurt children and more abused children. So the only way we can stop this cycle and really build is we got to heal from this stuff. So we must talk about it and we must forgive. So I appreciate everybody tonight, man. I appreciate you, Akasha. I appreciate you, JT. I appreciate you, Shug, for coming through, man. This was a great show. I appreciate everybody in the chat for staying up with us. And we will let y'all know when a part 2 is coming. Make sure y'all subscribe to everybody on the panel. You know, just check out our videos and get to know who we are, man. Get to know who we are. Cause over here and on all our platforms, that's what we deal with. We deal with real live issues and we deal with practical solutions. Not philosophies, you know, not conspiracy theories, but practical solutions. Shit that we can implement today and start seeing results. So shout out to everybody again. Y'all just tuned in to Sheep Stay Sleep TV. I'm your host, DS1 Ross. Shout out to the Alliance. And remember, we must heal before we build. Heal before we build. Because if we build before we heal, what we're going to do is we're going to continue to destroy ourselves from the inside. That's self-inflicted wounds. And the more we do that, it's going to basically slow up our progress, y'all. And that's what we want to do. We want to progress and be better. So let's get to that healing before that building. I appreciate y'all again, man. Sheep Stay Sleep TV, DS1 Ross. We out. Peace.